This is the first recording for the Ecology unit for freshman biology for terraced out at Limestone High School. First of all, we need to define what the term ecology means, and if you again break it down into its Latin bases, you can see the ology part, which still means the study of, and the eco part is going to be the new one, and that is looking at the interactions in biology. That's looking at the interactions of all living things. It's looking at how living things interact with one another and also how they interact with the non-living parts of their environment. Within this unit, you're going to need to be able to identify different types of living relationships, and you'll also need to be able to identify the parts of the living relationship, such as if it's living or non-living. So again, by definition, ecology is the study of interactions among organisms, so between living things, and also between organisms and their overall environment. So even the non-living parts like water, temperature, air, soil. When scientists are talking about ecology, it's not quite such a narrow field. We're actually taking information from lots of different science areas, such as chemistry, physics, geology, and of course biology too. When we are looking at ecology, we will use both the qualitative and quantitative types of research. Remember, as a review from Unit 1, quantitative refers to numbers, and you can put your information from quantitative research into graphs or tables, whereas qualitative is going to be descriptions. And descriptions are going to be things that are more so represented with colors. They're not as easily put into a table or graph. So parts of the definitions that you'll need to know when associated with ecology, we have the biosphere. So again, we see that Latin word bio, which still means living or life in general. And then the sphere is going to refer to any part of the earth. So you guys have heard of the atmosphere, the lithosphere, the stratosphere. So now we're talking about the biosphere. So the sphere part is going to be, so this part is going to refer to a portion of the earth. And then of course there is life, meaning bio. So biosphere is the portion of the earth that supports life. It does include all of the air, land, and water. And within the biosphere, you're going to have two basic types of things. You're going to have biotic factors. So again, there's the bio for life. Your biotic factors are all the living parts of an environment. So all the plants, all the fungus, all the bacteria, all the animals, all the protists, all of those are going to be biotic factors. Abiotic factors are going to be all the non-living parts of the environment. So here's where we're talking about temperature, moisture, light, rainfall, air currents, things like that. Now you can see that the base part of this word is very similar to the original one. Biotic meaning living parts of the environment, and now we have abiotic. So bio is still going to mean life, but when we have this Latin prefix A means not, it means against, it means without. So abiotic is going to be against life factors or not living factors of the environment. On your test, you will be shown a picture of an environment, and you'll need to be able to identify both the biotic and the abiotic factors of that environment. When you are looking at how organisms interact with one another and with their environment, we can study them on a couple of different levels. And this is referred to as the hierarchy of life. And a hierarchy is just an organizational structure. You can kind of see this even at Limestone. We have our Board of Education, and Dr. Gresham, our superintendent, reports to our Board of Education. Dr. Gresham has a team of administrators that reports to him, and that team of administrators does include the deans, Mr. Robinson and Mrs. Von Rohr. And then Mrs. Von Rohr and Mr. Robinson are in charge of the students. And so that information gets reported up those different levels. So like I said, a hierarchy is just a level of organization. It's just a structure. In the hierarchy of living things, the smallest level, the most exclusive, is when you're looking at one individual organism. It takes several of the same type of individual organisms to create a population. So if we were thinking about our environment, we could be talking about maybe one white-tailed deer. One specific white-tailed deer maybe that comes into your yard and eats your mom's flowers. A population would be looking at several of the white-tailed deer in this area. A community is going to be looking at a lot of different populations, so we're still talking about just living parts of the environment. Community is going to include things like all the white-tailed deer, all the rabbits, all the grasshoppers, all the raccoons, all the squirrels, all the living parts, so a bunch of different populations. So if we're going to go back up here, an individual would be talking about maybe one deer. Population would be looking at all of that type of deer. Community would include the deer, squirrels, what else did I say? Raccoons, maybe robins. We could go on for days, but that's enough. You get it. It's all of those populations. The ecosystem includes the community, so all of those living parts of the environment plus the non-living things. So we're going to add things like if there's a lake or a mountain, we're going to look at maybe temperature as well. So all of those are going to be a part of an ecosystem. A biome is going to be referring to one type of ecosystem that's on various parts of the earth. So for example, we are in a savanna or a grassland biome. We will share similar environmental aspects to other grassland biomes throughout the world. And all of the biomes put together, so tundra, grassland, estuary, marine, freshwater, rainforest, all of those make up the biosphere. So the biosphere is going to be the largest and most inclusive. So, going back here to biome, we are in a grassland biome, or the prairie. So those are the levels of organization in the hierarchy of life. For your test, you will need to know them in order. So I, P, C, E, B, B. And you also will need to be able to identify or label the different parts of these when shown pictures. So this page is just going to show you another example of the hierarchy of life. So we have the individual, the lone wolf. Remember that was looking at one specific organism, the individual. Gosh darn it, I keep hitting something. And then the population is looking at the pack of wolves. So we have the population here. The next one was the community. So you can see in this image here, I'm going to go ahead and write community. This community, it doesn't show the wolves, but they'd be part of it. But what I really liked about this one is it included maybe some parts of the organisms that we wouldn't normally think of as being living, such as maybe this tree. There would also possibly be fish here in the stream. So that's the community. And then including all of the non-living parts of the environment, we have the ecosystem. We have our biome. Remember, that's going to be the major parts of the earth that share those similar characteristics, and this would be the tundra biome. And then, of course, we have the one biosphere. When you're looking at organisms within an ecosystem, it's important to understand their role that they will play in the various ecosystems. And sometimes an organism can play more than one role. The niche refers to the role an organism plays in a community. You can also kind of think of this as like an occupation. A niche, an easy way to think of this with regards to ecology is going to be predator-prey relationships. Does the organism get to be the food, or does it get to be the one who eats the food? The habitat is going to be the place where the organism lives within that community. So do they live up in the trees? Do they kind of roam? Do they create a burrow? Do they make a nest? If they make a nest, how big is it? So I want you to take the time right now to look at this image and identify some possible organisms first, the niches that those organisms would play, and the habitats that they would live in. So go ahead and do that at this time. You will need to be ready to share some niches and habitats and the organisms that you're identifying with this picture during our next class discussion. That's it for this video.